Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening. Welcome to the 41st episode of The Divine Mess. Thank you so much for tuning in every single week. And for the past few weeks, we have been having guests on our virtual couch. And just like last week, you listened to, we did a sharing about what we learned from those different guests that we had. And now we have a new series of guests coming in. And every single week, we are connecting to beautiful people around the world who are sharing how they serve the world in their own way. And we are always keen to share a cup of coffee or tea, like Tina like to say, or a run, right? Tina say run. And like every single week. So if it's your first time listening, I'm Kirti Deva Perman, also known as Deva. I'm the cosmic guide at the Hero's Mystic, where we help you on the hero's journey to slay your demons, to find the true hero within you by balancing the divine masculine and feminine energy, and also having fun on the journey, not just being serious all the time. So that's why every single week I'm joined by my co-host. She's still having her cup of coffee this time, or her smoothie. So she said, like, I need to do the introduction. I don't think I can make justice about it, but I'm trying to. She's a beautiful mom of four lovely boys that she loves dearly. Four boys, and I know she's a fantastic runner. She's getting her 5K in 20 minutes now. That's what she said. Yeah.
Fine.
And, but she's a intuitive and love coach. Like she doesn't love labels. So we try to limit the labels with her, but she's a fantastic human that help other women as well in their business, in their life. And today we have a beautiful guest who also help other mamas, like she like to call her. Her name is Julianna. She's a Jesus loving single and homeschooling mom to three beautiful girls, which I just happen to know one of her daughter's name is Ruby, just like my mom. And she also has one dog and six chickens. We just know two names for them.
Yep.
She has an obsession with books, and she's convinced that there's no such thing as having too many. That's something I can relate to. And I'm sure Tina will relate to the next part. She never turns down a good cup of coffee. That's why they are both sharing a cup of coffee right now. She also has a passion for homeschooling her children, helping other mamas navigate through life challenges through her blog and personal coaching on one-to-one basis. Whether it's motherhood, relationship, or difficult transition, she supports them and promotes clarity and peace in their life. She has been through some unique challenges, all of which has led to this beautiful place or particular place in her life. And because of her own journey, that's she's going to share a bit more today with us. She now get to help other moms achieve a life of harmony and peace where they are living in alignment with their core values and who God created them to be. Well, welcome, Juliana. Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful piece. And we're looking forward to hear more about your journey. So, can you
Oh,
share
thank you.
more about your journey now?
I think you covered it. That was a great that was a great overview. No, yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, my journey it really started so many, I mean, my entrepreneurship and even just my business and this where I'm at right now in my life kind of started when I chose to be a single parent about a year and a half ago. And I say chose because I had filed for divorce. It was a very toxic marriage, and it was a really like it was a really integral decision at that time in my life because I had no plan, which is what many people had suggested I get before I take the dive into a divorce. But I had no plan, no money of my own, no job. I just knew I needed to do something different. Um, and it got worse before it got better. I wish I could say it didn't, but it really did. God, I'm not sure what I expected when it happened, but it just, I remember trying so hard with my business and trying and thinking, okay, the practical part, I need to make money. I got to support my kids. I want to homeschool, but I'm heartbroken. How in the world do I do all this? Um, but truly, I mean, that whole process, even though there was like a lot of really dark moments, it was really encouraging, not just to see like, you know, I knew God was going to help me through that, but I also saw family members that I really didn't expect come and support me in just, you know, emotionally, financially, like help guide me. I met some amazing people online, which was really surprising to me because I'd been off social media for 15 years because of the drama. And I thought, oh, this is going to be awful. I was kind of like cringing when I thought about having to get back on social media, but I was just really like pleasantly surprised again and again and again. Um, and I dove into the online space. I started out with like a fish out of water with all sorts of just trying to serve whomever came along my way, whether it was like calendar management or, you know, whatever, all sorts of different things. Um, but I landed in a place where I just kind of had this aha moment over the summer last year. And I guess you could say I kind of came back. I don't want to say I came back. I finally, after so many years of being like suppressed because of the toxic environment that I was in, I like I had this moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I've arrived. Like I'm myself again. I'm myself again, and I'm stronger than I was before. And like, I was like, holy crap, I gotta help other women with this. You know, I was like, that I just, it was such an empowering feeling. I had no clue how to go about it. I had an amazing coach who helped guide me, thankfully. Um, but that's really what led me to where I'm at now and to who I serve now. So,
Yeah, it's kind of it's interesting when you step away from something like that, because we've had very sort of similar. Mine's a little bit further down the road than
mhm,
yours, but you don't realize how limited you are as a person. You know that you
sure.
stay within certain parameters because that's
Hmm.
what's expected. You speak in a
Right.
certain way, you dress in a certain way, you act in a certain way. But the minute that those sort of social parameters aren't on you, you have this, it takes a while to kind of get comfortable with the freedom to
Sure.
explore and to
Hmm.
go, do I really like spaghetti bolognese, or do I just make that because it's convenient for me?
Right. Yes. It's
You
a great
know,
example.
or do I really like drinking champagne, or have I only ever just drank that
Sure.
because that was what was socially acceptable in the
Hmm.
family environment that I was in?
Sure.
Actually, no, I don't like that. You know, and being able to
Sure.
make really basic, simple decisions about, oh, I really like vegetarian food. I'm going to eat
Hmm.
vegetarian food for a while and
Sure.
see how that
Sure.
fits. But it's all of
Yes.
those, it's the little things, and the exploration of newness of
Hmm.
everything within your life. It can be exciting, but it's also really nerve-wracking because there's no boundaries.
Yeah, there's
There
no
is,
guidebook that says, here's what you're
oh,
supposed to do.
no, and like you say, navigating raising children, and how do you support yourself, and how do you co-parent, and how do you do all of those sorts of
Sure.
things, whilst providing a safe environment for your kids
Yeah,
is a challenge, you
it
know,
is. Yeah.
because I don't come that wasn't my family experience. So I was
Hmm.
kind of like a pioneer in my family. I don't know about you, but
Sure. Yeah,
it
I was too.
didn't come from that space. So how did your family navigate that space with you? Did they do it well, or were they not okay with it, shall I say?
I wouldn't say they weren't okay with it. I I have a really good relationship with my dad and my mom, and like I'm very comfortable speaking to them like pretty plainly. Um, and so there were disagreements, sure, but it wasn't, I feel like they're both pretty respectful, even with those disagreements. It wasn't ever anything that created a barrier with us. Um, I think the piece that was probably hard for them, and probably still a little bit, is like, okay, hold on, you're a single mom and you're pushing to start a business, right? But it's like, I mean, do you want to maybe go apply for some jobs just in case? They just, there's just this like, okay, is that practical, to do that? And I get that because I'm an extremely practical person. And even for me in the beginning, I was like, that practicality was just such a barrier for me because what I was trying to do was not practical. It was not normal. Like single parents don't homeschool their kids, right? Like who does that? Who wants to homeschool their kid? Like, that's just not what you do. And if you're a single parent, you struggle financially, right? That's what most single parents do. Um, and so I wouldn't say they always understood it, but we have like a respectful relationship enough to where they don't need to understand it the whole way. They were supportive of me emotionally. And so I was really pleasantly surprised in many ways, like how supportive they were, not because I didn't expect it necessarily, but um I guess just because of the growth that happened with my relationship with both of them, separately and individually. Um, but they I don't know if they still think I'm a little crazy. If they do, they don't share that with me, and that's fine. So it's okay. I don't ask. They don't tell that.
Okay.
I don't know. That's fine.
So the homeschooling part, what was the why did you choose to take that road with your girls rather than put them through mainstream school? What was there a particular instance, or was it just a gradual progression in you going, yeah, no, I don't think this is the right avenue for my children?
Yeah, so I was actually homeschooled as a child through 8th grade. I went to high school and I graduated from high school, like a public school. But even for college, most of it, I did some in person, but for the most part, I did it online, which even though that's not technically homeschooling, I mean, it's, you're doing it yourself from home, right? So homeschooling, and other people in my family homeschool as well. So it's a very natural thing for me. All of my kids went through like a preschool, but other than that, I always knew I wanted to homeschool them. It was something that I just kind of had in my head all the time, like, this is what I'm going to do. It does not look anything like I thought it was going to look like at all. It took me, I want to say probably 2 years before I was really comfortable with it, which was frustrating for me because I thought because I was homeschooled, I was like, I got this. I'm going to be great at this. I know what I'm supposed to do. I mean, this can be great. And and I had that first year and I was so excited and I was like, this doesn't work. How do these people I'm like have all this kindergarten curriculum that I'm going to do with my daughter, and I'm picturing these like beautiful days where I'm teaching her, she's just paying attention perfectly to me for 2 hours straight or something. Um, and I don't know that I ever got through a lesson in kindergarten, and I had to genuinely, after that first year, I was like, what happened, God? Like, what did I do wrong? I'm not sure. I like structure and I like schedules and I planned things out, like what happened? But even though I do love plans and I love when things go according to schedule. It's lovely. Um, yeah, kids don't do that. I They don't do that. I don't know. I don't I don't know. I see parents and that do homeschool and they have their rooms that are all set up and they're beautiful, and I see them with their kids around the table and it's all lovely. And maybe that really happens. I don't know. That's not how it works in my household. It's very organic, and like, sure, we have things that need to get done school wise, but it's a very like holistic kind of just, we're living life together. Like, school is really just, we're learning, you know what I mean? And we're constantly doing that. And it's not limited to the walls that we're in or to a desk. You know, it's just, we're constantly doing that. And that could look like all sorts of different things. So I don't know what the term would be for my homeschooling. I had to really let go of that because I kept trying to label myself as like some sort of Montessori or Charlotte Mason or unschooler. And I'm like, I don't know. I raise my children and I teach them, and you know, we do division and multiplication sometimes. I don't know. That's what we do. That's how I homeschool.
Because I know
So
my 16-year-old son had asked me several times, could you just homeschool me? And I said, I love you to distraction, but if I have to homeschool you, you might end up 6 feet under. So I
yep.
really suggest that it would possibly be better that someone else ask you to pay attention rather than me.
Mhm.
For
I get
our
that.
relationship, I don't think it would be healthy.
I get that. I get that.
You know, just
Yes.
it was not, I don't think it was conducive for our relationship to move forward. I said, it's a
Sure.
lovely idea, my sweetheart, but yeah, I don't think it's in the cards for our relationship. If you in the future want to homeschool your own children, please be
More
my
power to you.
guest, you know, like
That's
it,
your
and if it's
oldest?
my 16-year-old.
Yeah.
So he's my second
Okay.
baby, but school has never really been a thing for my children. They're both very physical and hands-on and
Mm-hmm.
do their learning by doing. So
Sure.
for them, sitting in a classroom is not the most practical
Mm-hmm.
thing, and they're always questioning the paradigm of education as to why it's done in a certain way and why hasn't it changed and why are we always learning about the past rather than trying to learn. I'm like, dude, I don't run it. I don't write the curriculum. It's not for me to say that, you know, we just do the best with what we have.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have anything against, I mean, I don't know what the future is going to hold with my kids. They're 8, 6, and 4, so they're little. Um, you know, it's like with kids, it's like they're each one's so different. They all have their different personalities. So this past year, as I've been working with my 6-year-old, I'm like, oh yeah, what worked with my oldest isn't going to work with her. And so I feel like I have to relearn some things, you know, like, and approach it differently because she's not, my oldest is very like, she's very similar to me, and we'll sit down and she'll do lessons, even if she doesn't feel like it. She's just kind of like, she's obedient, you know, she's just like, fine, okay, mom, come on, let's sit down. And my middle is like, I don't want to do that. I just want to go play outside. I just want to go, you know, and I'm like, well, okay, let me figure out how we can incorporate. All right, that's fine. I don't know. So it's very different with each of them, and I have no clue how my youngest is going to go. I don't know what they have in Australia, but I know here they have like hybrid homeschools where they go for a couple days a week and then they're home for some of it.
Okay.
And so down the road, I can definitely see myself going that route because I like having the best of both worlds. But even like my daughter, my youngest, is in her last year of preschool, and that it's only 3 days a week, but that schedule, I can't stand it. I can't stand having to like run and get ready to be somewhere, and then like I have to wait in line. I mean, it's for my own like mental health. I'm just like, I don't think I can do this. I feel like I'm running around on other people's schedules and it's so stressful. I just want to be free and enjoy life and go to the beach when I want to go to the beach. I don't know. Live by
Yeah,
my own.
there's got to be a better way for it
Yeah,
to work, and not every person thrives well in structured spaces, you know,
sure.
there's there's a thing for, you know, nature school for boys. I think, you know, that would probably be one of the better ways of educating our young boys, is to allow them that freedom of movement, you know, and then whilst they're moving, they're learning, you know, they're learning about how to trust their own bodies and to, you know, how far can they push themselves. And at the same time, you know, you're able to introduce concepts, because whilst they're moving, they're more receptive, you know.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what I've found with my boys, at least anyway. They're much more receptive when they're moving to new ideas and concepts. You know, when we're out walking the dog and doing that sort of thing, you know, it's always a good time to have a conversation.
Yes. Something about being in nature and around animals, even, it just like promotes that atmosphere, you know, and just gets their brains thinking different. I don't know if it's just the open space, but my kids are a lot more receptive out in nature, or when they're around like farm animals or just anything like that. You know, it's just they turn into different kids. It's a lot more like settled and calm, but at the same time, their brains are like alert and just like thinking so much, you know.
And how have you introduced these concepts to other mums? You know, have you found other mums quite open to homeschooling when you're introducing those to new clients? I'm especially thinking that that's the route that you're going, or am I getting the concept incorrect?
No. So my very first coaching client really wasn't for what I'm doing now. It was actually, she approached me because she knew I homeschooled and asked me if I would help guide her on that journey. So that my very first client, it was only just like, hey, I'm going to help you navigate homeschooling, because she was pulling her son out of public school. And she just wanted help navigating that, but it happened very organically. I initially had thought about going that route, and that's still kind of in the back of my head, but as something down the road to do. But I only incorporate it if moms want to. I think the way that I've noticed, I guess, that the way that I approach homeschooling, for some moms, not all, but for some moms, they're like, okay, that sounds like I can do that, you know, because when you first go into it, if you have no guidance and no prior knowledge, I think there's so many options out there, and there's so many people, you know, people, especially on social media or even on blogs, they post their best days and their best, like, this is what it looks like and this is how we do it. And that's wonderful. And there are days where things just seem to fall into place, right? And then there's days where it seems like everything's, not sure. I don't know. It's just like, what happened today? Okay.
What can I take away from this mess today?
Yeah, what is the opportunity for growth here? I'm not really sure. I think I just need a glass of wine and I need to go to bed. That's today. That's the lesson. That's all. So it's not a part of my coaching necessarily, but I do incorporate it if they want to. But yeah, it's not like an integral piece or anything. It's just some moms do, seek me out for that, just kind of unofficially though, for the most part.
Yeah. So what are they tending at the moment to be seeking from you? You know, what sort of guidance or assistance are you finding that people are needing at the moment?
It seems like a lot of moms that I'm connecting with, and that are, reaching out to me, or just very responsive to even some of my content, is moms who are just overwhelmed. They're burnt out. They've reached a point where they're like, I don't know, I feel like I'm doing things and I'm on this merry-go-round and every single day, and I can't go forward anymore. One more step, and they just feel stuck. Sometimes it's because of a lot of times it's because of their relationships that they're in. either the current ones they're in or ones that they've been in the past that have just caused them to develop this mindset of like, I can't, I'm unworthy, and, you know, life is never going to, you know, I just have to accept this, I guess, about life, but I don't know if something doesn't feel right. This, I don't, it seems like there should be more, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. And so these moms are really seeking like just peace. The word that keeps coming up with a lot of them is like, I just want to be at peace. I want to enjoy my kids, but I also want to have my own life and I want to like have my own identity aside from being a mom. Um, and I understand that because I've been there, you know, I've been there with my own journey. And so it's cool because, you know, being in the coaching space, you know, we're all just really at different pieces of our journey. And the cool thing about coaching I've noticed is like a lot of the coaches, even coaches I've had, it's not that they're like any better than me or that they're just like all powerful and creating magic or anything like that. It's just that, hey, I've been here. That was part of my journey a couple of years ago, and I know how to navigate that for and help you navigate that. But it also helps them on their healing journey too. Just like some of the moms I've worked with have caused realizations for me in my own life and helped me on my own journey. So yeah, so a lot of them are really just seeking peace, and that's really what I was seeking as well many years ago, you know, a couple years ago. So
Yeah, it's that, I think it's that more piece, like you know that you're either meant for more or that your
yeah.
life can hold more joy, more happiness, more bliss, more peace, more harmony, like to be able to
Yeah.
walk into your front door and it not feel combative.
Yeah, sure.
To be able to walk in and not feel like you need to be Xena warrior princess, you know, with a sword and a shield, and you're
Yeah.
waiting for the onslaught of something. You know, you kind of holding that tense energy
Yeah,
in your body that whole entire time, because 9 times out of 10 something's going to have gone pear-shaped
sure.
in someone else's day, and somehow that's either going to be your fault or you're going to wear all of the,
Right.
and not in a good way, not like in, you know, when you're in a stable relationship and as
Sure.
partners who share,
Who help, yeah, and support,
back
yeah.
and forth, and a support, and
Sure.
like I've got 20% in my battery left, and oh, you've got 60, awesome, can we combine so that you know there's enough to kind of get the end of day stuff done, meals, kids, all of that sort of thing, so that then you can both kind of sit down at the end of the day and have a glass of wine and go, oh, tell me about your day, you know. So
Exactly.
it's not one person bearing the load of kids, dinner,
Sure.
washing, bedtime, bath time, to do
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a
all the
lot.
stuff, and then
Yeah.
there's nothing left to take care of yourself, let alone be able to then give to that person who isn't particularly giving
Right,
coming back the
exactly.
other way, you know. But there
Sure.
is an expectation that you're married, and therefore, you know, that person says they want something, that's your role and responsibility to kind of be there and divvy that out,
Yes,
you know,
yes, yes.
irrespective of what you want.
Yeah, no, it makes no difference. You have no needs. No needs.
No.
No, definitely not.
we definitely not, you know. So I think
Yeah,
it's nice to, as much as those journeys are really difficult, it's nice to see, and also it does happen for guys as well, you know.
sure.
Let's not kind of say that it doesn't, because it does. A lot of men are trying,
Absolutely.
you know, very similar
Absolutely.
relationships, you know, on the flip side, that they're coming, you know, coming or home or being stay-at-home dads, you know, and they're coming and dealing with something like that as well. But it's nice to sort of see this awakening process
Right.
where people are realizing that, hey, hang on a minute, just because I said yes back then doesn't mean I'm
Right.
saying yes to all of this stuff, you know.
Sure.
I'm, you know, or I didn't have really good boundaries when I said yes in my early 20s,
Yeah.
and now I'm a mum, right?
Uh-huh.
I've
I know it's
stepped
going to
into
bring
a
up the boundary.
very
Yeah, it's
new
gonna,
role, and all of a sudden it's like,
yes.
hey, hang on a minute, I don't accept that behavior in my
Yeah.
2-year-old. I ain't copping it from you. So,
Yeah.
but the thing is, they're used to a certain pathway with you and your personality, and then all of a sudden your role changes, so then you need to change, but they still see you in a certain light, and it's almost like the bridge of communication is kind of like it's not there. I
Yeah,
can't compute that
absolutely.
you're like that, so therefore there's a lot of resistance, and I think that's
Sure.
where a lot of the problems come from. But we as women,
Absolutely.
boundaries, very important.
Yeah, and boundaries aren't, it's interesting because like, I mean, I grew up with boundaries being talked about and even just the psychology of things. I mean, my parents taught me about proper communication and active listening and even love languages and all of these things that are like probably not the most, I don't know, maybe they're not normal for most like little kids to grow up with, but I did like my parents were really like intentional about that. But interestingly enough, I, you know, I really just because of just past generations, especially as a female, it's like not just as a female. My dad, I think, struggled with this as well sometimes too, with boundaries and just not saying no, like enough. Sometimes maybe saying no too much, right? Like just not really understanding where that line is either, and just like, either being one extreme or the other. Um, and that boundary issue, my gosh, it's such a huge thing. A lot of women, when I talk to them, I just want to like give them a hug and just be like, please, you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to say, I am not okay with this. This is the line right here, and you can draw that line, and you don't have to feel guilty about it. You don't have to feel guilty about it. And you don't have to explain it either. You just don't.
It's a
And
complete sentence, right?
it is a complete sentence. I implemented this the other day with my ex because he was pushing, and I just sent a simple no, period. There was nothing else to be said. And there's times where that's just like, that's what you need to do. We don't need to over explain ourselves, like it's perfectly fine to offer an explanation, but out of self-respect for ourselves, at some point, we have to say, you know what? I've explained myself. If you don't have to understand it, that's fine. But you still have to respect it, whether you like it or not. It really makes no
Yeah.
difference because it's my boundary. But we don't get taught that somehow growing. I don't know if it's society, and what is just being exemplified in the world, but I mean, it it's such a big struggle I see with parents. I mean, and like you said, it's not just moms, it's like stay-at-home dads, stay-at-home moms, and maybe it's just the default parent. Maybe that's the better way of saying it, regardless of gender. It's like when you're the default parent, something about it's almost like the people that are around you, just they don't even see you as having any sort of needs at all. And it's like, what? Okay, hold on a second. Like, yes, I know for me, like in my marriage, I was like, okay, yes, I have to push myself to do X, Y, and Z each day. Um, and sometimes that means even when I'm sick, right? It makes no difference, right? I mean, that we still have to push ourselves. But just because I'm pushing myself doesn't mean that at some point I don't have to like rest and recharge, right? I mean, that was a big issue in my marriage, was like, it was like, okay, hold on, you're doing for the kids. Okay. Well, once they go to sleep, then it's about me, right? Like now it's like, these are my needs, right? Come on. Marital duties, let's go. And it's like, I just want to sit. I just want to sit and relax. Can I have that boundary? No, I guess I can. I don't know. So that's um that's a hard one in my marriage for sure. But um I think that's a really big piece though, of just like achieving that finding that purpose and finding that peace in your life, it starts a lot of just like breaking that people pleasing cycle, you know, of just like saying, okay, I'm okay. Like I'm going to listen to my inner voice. I'm going to trust myself again, and I'm going to accept myself no matter what other people think or think about me. Like just be yourself unapologetically, you know, like period.
But that's a hard, I think that's a hard concept for a lot of people, is
Sure.
they don't know what they want, but
Mm-hmm.
they know they don't want what they have.
Sure.
And then they don't know how to get what they want,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they don't know who to be, because, you
Right.
know, they have those labels attached to their forehead: wife, mother, daughter, sister, you know, like, or their respective career label: doctor, nurse, teacher,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it happens to
Sure.
be. But that's it. Like, if you ask them who they are underneath those
Right.
5 things, they would be like, I don't know. They've never
That's who I
given
am.
themselves, well, it is,
That,
yes.
yeah, that's what they think. That's who I am. I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm a
I'm a
mom.
doctor, and I'm a mum, and I'm a wife to XYZ, and, you know, so they've never given themselves the time, you know, and same go for guys as well. You know, I'm a teacher, and I'm a dad of 2 boys, and I'm a this, and I'm a that.
Sure.
Who are you underneath? You know, are you a runner? Are you an avid book reader? Are you a
Right.
yogi? Are you a, what else? What's the
Yeah.
next
What do you
layer?
love?
What,
Yeah.
you know, do you love to cook? Do you love music? Do you like sitting
Mm-hmm.
in nature? Do you like hugging trees? You know, swimming in the ocean? What's your
Yeah.
thing? But if we don't give ourselves, when we're on that treadmill of life, if we don't give ourselves an opportunity to taste lots of things, how do we know?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
And do you find a lot of your mums don't know how to identify with those different parts of themselves?
I think they don't know how to identify, and even if they can answer that question of, hey, what did you used to love to do before being a mom? You know, what was something that really like nourished your soul, you know, that made you just feel alive, right? Um, or what would you do if you didn't have kids? It's like they have that, some of them have that answer, some of them don't. But even the ones who do have that answer, it's always followed with, well, I don't have time though. You know, I don't have time. And I get it. It's tough, right? It's like we're busy. We're very, very busy. I think the biggest perspective shift that I help them with is like, you know, this busyness, like some of it's unavoidable, right? Sometimes like there's just certain things, like if your kids are in school, you have to have them out the door at a certain time, right? You have a job. Like there's certain things that we like parameters, right? That and different dynamics in their life that are just there out of necessity. But sometimes, a lot of times, the busyness is something that we create without really realizing it, because we're trying to do it all. And, you know, that we're trying to make our kids happy, and well, they love doing this sport. So, you know, that's why they're signed up for this, and it's 3 days a week. And it's like, okay, you know, I mean, I hear that, right? But I think that's the hardest thing for them is just, and it's not even a pleasant thing that I like to say, but it's true. It's like, just so you know, the busyness that you have, a lot of it is a choice. It's something I had to accept about myself too, that I had created this overwhelming schedule for myself, not just this actual schedule, but even just these expectations that we put on ourselves to be able to do all this stuff, and to be everywhere at the one time, you know. Um, and so I think that's the biggest, I've noticed that's the biggest struggle so far, is that most of them like know what they want, but they're just like, I don't think it's possible, or I don't have time, you know, like maybe when the kids are grown, maybe then, you know, and it's like maybe when this falls into place, maybe when I have more money, You know, maybe when I'm not at this job that's very stressful for me or whatever it may be, right? There's excuses that come up.
I'm just curious to know, like, because thank you for sharing all these, like there are so many practical tips that I heard in there for moms as well. And for you, I just want to put the spotlight back on you, if that's okay. Because I'm just curious to know, when did you reach that point that you asked yourself, well, I need to cater for my needs? When did you realize that I need, like when the bottle of wine is finished, like you don't have any more wine? When did you realize that, okay, I have to look at myself first? Because from a mom perspective, I'm just curious to know that.
Yeah, I think that it wasn't just one it wasn't just one thing necessarily, one moment. I would say the very first moment, and that was when I left and when I made the decision to leave my marriage. That was a big, I guess, piece for me with self-care and just putting myself first, because even though I knew long term that was going to be best for my kids, in that moment for them because of their ages, and because of just the dynamic in the house with my ex being there, I was pretty certain how the reaction and how his reaction would be and how the energy in the house was going to feel once I made it known that I'm filling out papers, just so you know. That was a really big piece for me because it, in that moment, it really had to do with me. It really just had to do with me. My kids were probably sensed things where, like they probably sensed the energy in the house. I mean, I know my dog did even. My dog was like so stressed out and anxious all the time. And I know they probably sensed something too if my dog did, right? But that was something that for me, I was like, you know what, I have to do this for myself, out of self-respect for myself. The kids were part of that decision for sure in my brain and in my head, but it's like, that was about me. That was about me. And that was really hard. It was really hard to do because it felt so backwards, especially coming from a Christian background. Like, divorce is bad. That's just not what you do. That's what a lot of churches teach. But I really felt God telling me to leave that marriage. And I was like, does God do that? Does God do that? I was like, yeah, I think so. Um, so that was the problem. That was the first step though, was doing that. And then after that, it was different pieces of it. There was another point shortly afterwards where I hired an attorney because initially I tried to do it by myself, which was hilarious of me, but I thought I can do this. It's fine. That didn't work out too well. But that was something that was really just for me. I was like, you know what? I need help with this. I need somebody to navigate this side of it because I was overwhelmed. I was just so overwhelmed with it. At one point, I hired a house cleaner because I couldn't bring myself to clean my house and keep it clean. And I was like, felt very guilty about that at first, but I thought, no, this is okay. Like asking for help from people. But it really did start with that decision to leave. That was the first big step. And then it was just a lot of little things after that. So.
Yeah, I think my line was, I'm done.
Yeah,
That
sure.
was the words that came out of my mouth, was just, I'm done. God.
Yeah,
I
I
cannot
can't.
face another single
Yeah,
moment of
mhm.
you, bless your heart, and your inability to deal. I can't do it. I can't
Yeah.
raise 2 children and raise you. Like,
Right.
that's not my job. That was your mother's job. That ain't my job. You
Right.
know, like, you're a grown-ass man.
Right. Please
It's
act like it.
it's my job to raise these 2 little men. It's not my job to
Mhm.
raise you.
Sure.
And kind of once you have that, it's almost like the door gets shut and padlocked. Like,
Yes.
there is
Uh-huh.
no
Yeah.
changing, coming back. And I think they do say for a lot of people who are kind of traversing this messiness that is relationships sometimes, is that you often leave emotionally a long time before your physical
Mhm.
entity steps up and
Sure.
leaves the house.
Absolutely.
So the person who's obviously made that decision quite some time ago, they've had the time to process all of
Right.
or a good portion of it. And it's not saying that by the time you've stepped away, you've done all your work, because
No, of course not.
you have not.
No, no, no. No,
You
there
have
is a
not.
moment though. I actually had a like tangible moment with, it was like the last straw, so to speak. I mean, truly, like I remember this incident just being like, oh, I understand the saying, the straw that broke the camel's back. This was it. And but it was 7 or 8 months before I actually decided to leave. But I mean, I literally, it was a very like high conflict situation. It was a very emotionally and psychologically abusive situation that happened with my kids present. And it's a long story, and without getting into it, it was just, we were out of town and he had made the decision to, after this massive conflict and such something that he created, to leave us in another state. And I mean, genuinely, if there was a plug in my brain, I swear that it just felt like something just unplugged emotionally. It was like, wow, something just broke. I mean, something broke just now. And when that I mean, whatever sliver was still there, because there were lots of things leading up to that caused the breakdown of that emotional connection I had with him, whatever trauma bond that I had with him. But it was like that moment, I was like, I don't know, something just happened. Something just unplugged. And I don't know how else to explain that. It did. But I didn't leave in that moment. It took, after that, it felt just miserable every day, and it just kept getting more. And when I finally did say it out loud, I mean, I just had a day where I was like, if I take one more step, one more minute in this direction, I am going to completely lose myself.
Yeah.
Completely lose myself, and I'm going to be a bitter and angry person, and I'm never going to find myself again. And I can't do that. Can't do that anymore. It's just like, I can't, and that's all. I can't do this anymore. That was it. I can't. I'm sorry. I don't tell you. So
Yeah, I've got nothing left. Tank's
got
empty. Yeah, it's less
just
than
like,
empty.
yeah, it's empty. There's holes everywhere. I just don't think I can. There's a repair job that needs to be done. I just cannot do it in
No,
this
it's an
space.
amputation. It's the only way.
Yes, this is not like, I don't know. It's just like nothing there. Sorry.
No,
So,
and I don't think there's, because so many people went, surely you can go to counseling, and sure,
oh,
no.
yeah,
There is no way that it's essentially like he speaks French and I speak Italian. There is no
right.
communication. There is no level
Yep.
of understanding. I'm here and he's there, or vice versa. It's just, there is no meeting of the
Nothing.
minds. There is no connection. There is no nothing. But,
Yeah.
from his perspective, it was very much like, what? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I know. What?
What just happened?
You were unhappy? I didn't
Sorry?
know that. Like, how do you not? Okay. We've been arguing for years. How did you not?
And that's kind of normal for you, but do you know what? That's not a normal that I
Yeah,
want
no.
for myself. It's not a normal I want for my children. It's not what I want my children to believe to be a healthy or respectful relationship, because it's not.
Right.
I, you know,
Yeah.
if I never have another relationship, I don't mind. However, if I do, then I want them to see what healthy love, respect, harmony,
Yeah.
a peaceful
Because we
living
have to
environment looks
exemplify
like.
that,
Absolutely. You know,
we have to exemplify that.
I
Yeah.
am the example of what they're going to be seeking
Right.
in someone else. And what we were modeling is what they would then practice as adults. And as far as I was concerned, that wasn't what I wanted from my boys. I never wanted them to treat another human being the way their father treated me.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I
and I think
didn't want that.
that's a totally like that perspective. And I remember saying this to my ex at one point when he was, because there was a period where he was like, "Oh, come on, what are you talking about? Like, oh, why can't we just stay together for the kids?" And I was like, if your kids, if they were in this marriage, if they were in a marriage like this, like, would you want them to stay? Like, if they were saying to you and coming to you with this, like, is this what you want for them? And he said, well, that's besides the point. I don't know why you're thinking of it like that. And I said, I think that is the point. That is the point. I said, because they're going to mimic us, especially like I have daughters and they're going to mimic me without even realizing it.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want them to think this is normal. I don't, that'd be terrible. And if my kids came to me and asked me for advice, I mean, I don't want to be a hypocrite. Like, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes as a parent, but I don't want my kids to ever be like, well, gosh, mom, you're giving me this advice, but you stayed with somebody that was blah, 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 blah. I mean, that to me, it's like, no, I got my integrity that is very important to me. And like, I have to live by the examples and by the core values that I'm teaching them are important. And if my mouth is saying one thing and my actions are saying something different, they're not going to have respect for me and our relationship is not going to be good. And that's not okay. I'm not okay with that. It's just not.
Hallelujah. I totally agree with you in every single aspect of that. My darling friend, Mr. D, do you have any further questions for our beautiful guest?
I'm just wondering, because you said I do work with moms as well, so they are often in the same situation like you are, like they take that 7 to 8 months that you mentioned, like to actually take the action, like actually, because like emotionally, like Tina said, you already left emotionally the person, but to actually do it and have, like, I'm done. Just say, I can't do this
Yeah.
anymore. So how do you help mom to get to that point for you, like in your coaching and in your blog?
Yeah, so the moms that I coach are already at that point where they are done. They may not have actually verbalized it yet to their partner. But they have already in their minds that emotional unplug is already happening. It's already happened, I mean. And it really depends on the situation. Some situations there's safety concerns depending on how the partner may be. And so I really just help them map, if they haven't made that verbalization of it, I help them map out, like, let's talk about what your life, like, what are we envisioning, like, because when you start really envisioning this life and remembering and thinking about like, okay, this is what I want, this is what's possible, and you start remembering who you are, there's a lot of internal like journaling that I have them do with different prompts that just help them uncover a lot of just their passions, I guess is what it is. Because when you start remembering that part of yourself, it almost makes it intolerable to stay in that situation. Well, not almost, it does. It does make it intolerable. And so I personally think it's best not to get to that point where you're hitting a wall like I did, where I was like, I just can't anymore. I am depleted and done. But some moms are there, and that's fine. And in that case, I go a different route, and we focus more on like self-care at that point in the beginning. But the core of my program is really working on like boundaries, what healthy boundaries look like, what they don't look like, how to implement them, and guiding them in that process, uncovering their passions and even discovering new ones if they really have no idea, and helping them implement and incorporate their passions in their daily life. And I go in whatever order, I work out and map out a plan for them specifically, depending on where they're at in their situation. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm aware that you have a mindset journal as well that you will be sharing with our audience. So can you a bit elaborate on that and what's the gift entails?
Yeah, so I have the mindset journal is really it's all about like shifting your perspective. It was some journal prompts that I actually did myself, questions that I asked myself and journaled on. Some of them are talking about fears, like I believe in the first page, it's talking about, like, hey, what do you want? Like, what do you really want in life? Like, if there was no chance that you would fail, like let's talk, what would that look like? What, with no limitations and no worry about that, what would that be? So some of it is talking about wants and fears. Some of it is about past trauma. Some of the questions are geared towards some things in the past to help uncover. I've had a lot of good feedback on it from people. I've had some people say like, that brought some interesting things up. I'm not sure I was ready for some things that it brought up. But I've gotten a lot of good feedback on it. I'm working on another thing right now and I'm actually almost done with it. It's responses that are like copy and paste responses to diffuse like high conflict arguments and conversations before they start and get into arguments. And there are things that I've come up with myself that I use myself literally as copy and paste. And so I'm almost finished with that, and I'm working on an ebook as well that is, it's titled The Art of Saying No. And so it's about healthy boundaries and how to set those. So those are some things that I'm working on right now.
Beautiful. Well, that sounds like some very handy tools for people to be able to get their hands on, and we will have all of Julianna's details in the show notes. So if our listeners want to get in contact and learn a little bit more about what she does, then we will have all the links and the information in there. And we would love to say a very special thank you for coming on the couch this morning and having a conversation with us. And it's very interesting to have a conversation with someone who has a similar story and how you navigated that. So it was lovely, and thank you for sharing that with us today. We really appreciate your time and your energy coming in today. So as per normal, thank you very much to everybody that has taken the time to listen today, and we love you, and we look forward to having you on the couch next week for another fantastic guest. So until then, take good care of yourselves, and don't forget to put your hand up and ask for some help, as Julianna said, because there's so many people out there who are willing to be of service to you in your time of need. Don't have to do it yourself.
That's right.
Well, thank you for coming on board. Like, if you have any last messages that you want to share with our audience, for all the moms out there, please go for it. If you-
I think all I can really say is that, you know, if for any mom that finds themselves in a situation where they're feeling stuck or like, oh my gosh, this is going to be my life forever. Is this how it's going to be? I just want to remind them that there's hope. There really is. There's so many, as Tina said, like so many people out there willing to help. Um, you know, so many resources out there. And if I could give any piece of advice, I would just say, don't don't isolate yourself. Don't isolate yourself, you know, ask people for help, start talking about it, start getting getting it out because that's going to be the most helpful thing to push you forward.
Thank you for that beautiful knowledge. Thank you, message as well, for your wisdom, for being vulnerable on the virtual couch, you know, like sharing your stories, how you navigate through your homeschooling. I find that really interesting because I come from a country where we don't value homeschooling or we don't talk
Okay.
about it. So it was interesting to hear, especially a single mom raising three girls, how to navigate. And with my parents being in the teaching background, it was more interesting to hear your perspective. So thank you so
Cool.
much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you
You can
guys.
come back anytime you want. If you, when your ebook is out, you want to share more about it, because we are really keen to know, you know, like the art of saying no, you know, like that's something we can resonate with. So please, whenever it's out, just shout out. We'll
All
have
right,
you
I
back
will.
anytime on the virtual couch. And thank you again for connecting. To our
Yeah,
audience,
awesome.
thank you for listening, for the beautiful wisdom from Juliana. It was a beautiful conversation. And I hope you learn a few things about homeschooling and especially moms, how it is they navigate, not with a bottle of wine, but with wisdom sometimes. But that's what we need to, that was the message of today. Like, go within, you know, like go within and ask for help. Like Juliana said, don't hesitate to contact her or us. If you're having difficulties, you know, like to connect with us, just let us know. We will be happy to connect you with her. So thank you. On that note, we'll see you next week. See
Right
you.
now, bye.
Bye-bye.